Well, let's begin. Hopefully you can catch me on that then, since you're here and in person.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to start this one off just going right into a little monologue, I guess you could say.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. In my youth, all I ever wanted to do was escape. I wished to leave everything behind me and move on with someone to a place where no one knew us. There were numerous fantasies I would come up with about how I would escape. I remember the joy those thoughts brought to me. Each fantasy ended with me finding the right person, moving away to Nowheresville, and cruising through the rest of my days with that person. I would just need a place to live with a steady income, with liquor, with pot, and a simple life, and I would be content. And now, after that was what I was chasing for so many. That was what was in the horizon since I was in 8th grade. So what I struggle with on a daily basis is fighting the return to that desire, the easy out, the simple routine, the drifting. Every day I think about it. I come across a pretty girl and think to myself, is she gonna run away with me? I come across an inconvenience in my day and think, why do you put up with this? That voice that asks those questions isn't as loud these days, but he used to scream when I first returned to Texas. He would assemble the perfect plan to sneak a friend into my house or to sneak myself out of my house and lie to anyone who cared so I can go smoke with someone. He would imagine how easy it will be to build a life that requires little effort to sustain myself. And to be honest, I miss the easy days. I'm unsure if there will ever be a morning that doesn't involve the regret of waking up, that doesn't involve the longing to return to the dream I was having, that involved falling in love with someone and getting away to somewhere. Though I know it all stems from my attempts at getting better. I know it all comes from the desire to do more. Much like the saying, if you have roads, then you're going to have roadkill. If you have X, you're going to have Y. So I'm hopeful for the future, to say the least. I believe that one day those mornings will be easier, or that I just get stronger. I believe those thoughts will eventually subside. I believe that my life is going to get better. I just need to keep on getting up. I just need to keep on moving on. And even if I take a step back for each 2 I take forward, I know I'm making some ground. I know the light is coming, and it will help me out of the darkness I desired to live in for so long. I see that I have this potential to develop into the person I wish to be now. And I no longer wish to be nothing, insignificant, a waste of potential. I was lucky enough to remove myself from the friends and situations that dug me deeper into that pit of drifting. I was lucky enough to find a mentor who had the patience and wisdom to guide me out of the mindset of settling. Settling for the common things, settling for the simplicity of life, for the easy answers. And I was even more lucky that he happened to become my dad. And that mentor, that man, is now sitting across from me. So, without further ado, hello, Dad.
Hello.
Hi.
And howdy, everybody. This is Voyagers Path, Season 2, Episode 7.
Mhm.
With me is Ahmed, and as I said already, Calvin Drake on the stage. So today, folks, oh, wait, I need to make sure I don't forget this. We are part of the JPK Broadcasting Network. You can find us at their website or their YouTube channel or our own YouTube channel, Voyagers Path Podcast. For those of you who are new here, we are a podcast built around helping young teens and adults better themselves through character building, so they may overcome whatever they're going through and get to wherever they would like to go, much like this old man has helped me do.
Old man's a little.
That's a little harsh.
Yeah.
A little harsher.
Yeah.
So, before we dig a little deeper into this, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you.
Oh, wow. You didn't say you were going to make me do all that.
No, I did.
I'm here under duress as it is.
I just wanted to.
You can treat me as a hostile witness. I'd rather be behind the camera.
Yeah, I know.
Of course, a little bit about me. Former Marine. I actually joined up when I was 16 in the summer before my senior year in high school. Things going on in the world at the time, I looked around and noticed that other individuals my age, teenagers, didn't have the opportunities that I had before me. And I also had the desire that I looked at my country and the freedoms that I had. Others had paid for that freedom. And I felt I needed to join and also pay the price for our freedom and for others coming behind me. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and joined and spent 8 years in, with the last year serving in Desert Storm over in Bahrain, which in itself, being a Marine is great enough, but going and serving at war with your brothers in arms is life-changing as
Mm-hmm.
well. So a lot of us came back from over there with a different mindset. I was, 23 when I went over, I believe, and stuff, and got back and some things in there. Did a couple of different jobs. Wound up working at a juvenile detention center as a guard there. And then became a counselor working there. And then the judge, and this was in Oklahoma City, I was living at the time, and I was working at the Gary E. Miller Children's Justice Center. And the judge heard about the counseling I was doing in the back with the residents and everything else, and then introduced me to the CASA program, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, and asked if I'd be interested in getting involved in that program, working with kids that have been removed from the home and placed in foster care. And, of course, the motto for CASA is being a voice for the child. And different people in the foster care system have their jobs and things that they need to do in their agendas. The CASA worker is specifically there to make sure that the needs of the child are met and addressed. And so I became a CASA in 1999, and I've been doing that kind of work since then. Mm-hmm. And then after that, career-wise, I went to school.
Go ahead and date yourself, yeah.
No. But once a Marine, always a Marine, and that military mindset. It's challenging to come out of the military, come back from war, and deal in the civilian
Lifestyle.
Yeah, in the workplace, because the mentalities just don't jive.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, and even I became a massage therapist because I wanted to do something to be able to build my own business. Mm-hmm. Because I realized I was not going to want to continue to work
with people.
Yeah.
And
so during this period of time, as I was going to school, I was working overnight at a convenience store. And long story short, starting as an associate, working 11 to 7, ending up a year later having my own store. A year after that, becoming a district manager. And then I did that for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And
living the good life.
And it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And the best part was helping store managers. And my whole mindset has been to help other people become successful at whatever they're doing in life. And being able to help store managers become successful in running their stores and being able to provide for their families and everything else was a good motivation for that. And, of course, also behind all of this, and during those years, I was very involved in the church, in youth ministry, as a youth pastor, as a youth leader, in dealing with teenagers and young adults. And so from the time of, 21 or so, I've been in different mentoring programs, different counseling programs, and different things. And doing that in CASA work has been the most fulfilling beyond being a Marine,
Mm-hmm.
of being able to make a difference in the lives of others. Well, there was one night I was out on guard duty in the middle of the desert, and when you become a Marine, you have to reconcile dying.
Mhm.
So that was not a problem. I did not want to come back from over there handicapped in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked God when I was over there, if you allow me to get back safe and sound, I want to do something and have the opportunity in knowing as a Marine and my job at times being willing and able to take a life, knowing just how valuable a life is, and wanting to get back and have the opportunity to just the opportunity to change just one life. I wanted to leave a legacy that said that my life mattered for something. You can gain all this stuff, all this material stuff in the world that you want, and then if you're gone, if that's all you've built, then other than the fond memories your friends and family have of you, there's nothing of you that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you invest in the lives of other people, your wisdom, the things that you've shared, the things that you've taught, continue to go on as they change the lives of those people around them.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I mean when I got lucky, right? It was like, couldn't ask for a better candidate.
Role
Right.
model.
Yeah, candidate, role model. Whichever.
Yeah.
Whichever.
I deal with that daily.
But thank you for sharing that. I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. So we'll have to talk about this, just being who we are, and eventually down the line. But are you still a Christian man?
Oh,
You
my
still
goodness.
a God-fearing man?
The short answer to that is I still live by biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
Jinx.
All of the experiences that I've had, and I've been in leadership in church, have not always been positive.
Yeah.
And me just being who I am, as an example of things that I could not reconcile. And boy, if you did not put me on the spot with this one.
Well, you don't have. You can stop answering whatever you feel like. If you're uncomfortable with going on, you don't have to keep going.
You threw it out there.
Because anything you say, it's my reputation on the line, not yours.
I am still a spiritual. I still believe in God. I'm still a spiritual person. My challenges are with the organized
Mm-hmm.
part of church, because the church needs and has to operate as a business. And there are no perfect churches, because the church are the people, and there are no perfect people.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding that and not expecting that to be any different than it is, there were just certain things about how the particular churches I happen to be a part of
Right.
were managed and ran.
Okay. I was just curious what your answer was going to be on the spot. I wasn't sure if you had thought about that before coming on to this show.
Maybe give him a heads up. and he can
Well,
yeah,
that's the fun
nothing.
part.
Yeah,
That's
he gave me nothing.
That's the
on
fun
that
part.
one.
Well, he
Huge
got to read. He
bombshell.
got to read this, as you can see. He's got his own sheet of paper,
Yeah.
but he got to read it.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned it earlier, like after you got out of the Marines, you wanted to help other people, and that sort of sounds like something that you also wanted to do when you were going into the Marines. So my question is, were there some ideals or ethics that you brought alongside you when you got out of the Marines?
Most of all, like I said, I still consider myself a spiritual person, and I still live by biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something from the time, and I chose, crazy as it was, I chose to get baptized while I was in boot camp.
Wow.
Crazy. They'll let you do that?
Yeah.
Were you just trying to skimp out on something?
Well,
Got some PT. I'm gonna get
initially when
baptized.
I started going to chapel, as it's
right.
called, it was to get away from my drill instructors.
Uh-huh.
The Marine Corps boot camp, you're 24/7.
Sneaky.
with your drill instructor.
Take
so you
notes,
get
fellas.
no time away. So, that hour or two, you get to walk to chapel by yourself and be a human. So it was just that time to just be away.
Right.
And then, of course, there was one of the services they offered for the next week if you wanted to get baptized. And I wound up making that decision to be baptized. And from there, my journey of, because I know for myself and for others I've talked to, when we go to church, because our parents have gone to church or our relatives go to church, and I called myself a Christian because I just went to church, and that's what I thought. But being a Christian and living by Christian principles is very much different from that.
Right.
And so if I was going to call myself a Christian, I needed to know what that was and to know what I believed. And so my journey into Christianity
Has been a
began
unique
at
one.
18,
Right.
Personally,
Right.
and getting baptized.
Okay. The reason why, anyway, speaking about biblical principles, we'll come back to that because there's going to be a time where I ask you, a few principles that you instilled into my life, introduced to me that I didn't know much about. I'll bring that back up again, seeing if any of those were cherry-picked from said Bible. But, Ahmed, before we go on to the next segment, any other questions?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. So what my dad did, when I came back to Texas, that was 3/6/18. January, March. Oh, what's that? March 6th, 2018.
Yeah.
He told me over the phone when I was in California that when I come back to Texas, that I need to not smoke pot, and there was something else. What was it?
Yeah, you just jumped into that. When you moved to Texas, when you moved to California, I met you when you were about 14.
So you're going way back.
Well, you
want to give a history lesson?
No, just a short, let people know
Or okay.
different things. But your biological dad and I were friends, and he
Where'd
was
you guys
going
meet?
through. Now you're making it longer.
You got to let him talk.
So we became friends. I helped him kind of navigate through his divorce and everything else. And I met you, your siblings, and your grandmother, and everything. And then just to lay that to bed, after a while, there was a little distance there with your biological dad because he wanted to blame everything and everybody else and not take accountability and responsibility for what was going on in his life now and how to change that going forward. Right. And he kept doing things and making the decision like that to basically run away from California because he thought Texas was the problem. He thought your biological mom was a problem. He thought his mom was a problem, and everything else. And so you guys left and went to California. We did connect when you were younger, and I did see a lot of potential in who you are. And I know that the mentality, surprisingly, you're more on the philosophical side of things than Michael was, and you two just could not get on the same page.
Not surprisingly.
And so, we had a couple of conversations, deeper conversations about life when you were a younger teen. And then New Year's, you called and wished me a Happy New Year. You texted me.
Yeah, I texted you asking about universal stuff and Happy New Year's on top of that.
Yeah. And that's where our communication, took off from there. And then all the other things that led up from January to March to you coming back.
I didn't realize you guys met each other before you moved to California. This is news to me.
Well, it was sometime. I forget.
Yeah, you were 14.
I was 14.
Yeah.
Oh, so did you meet Allison?
Yeah.
Man,
What?
You don't even know all this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw you back then too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, him?
No, I meant
Me.
you. Where you
Oh,
were
saw
headed.
me. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All good things. All good things.
Mm-hmm.
So after that little buff, where I was getting to is whenever I came back to California. Well, I guess yes. Whenever I was in California, and I was calling Calvin, and there was a situation. Dad and I got into it. My biological dad and I got into a fight. I got hit. Then I called Calvin, and then Calvin and I discussed me getting out of there. And then I'm not sure, was it weeks later or just a week? Or sometime.
It was less than a week.
Okay. Days later, Michael calls you saying, "What verbiage? What did he say?" I know the punchline is, "Hey, do you want my son? Because I don't want him." But was that?
I can't remember exact words, but it was something like that. And he's always thought that you've needed a drill instructor, and being
Right.
Marine,
Of course.
And I think, and and we talked because I told him at times when you would ask me certain life questions, I would tell him about our conversations, hoping that he would jump in there as well and talk with you as well. So he knew that there was a connection there. And so, and for everything else that was going on in California, it was much easier for him
Just to drop the bag.
to find a way to
Yeah.
get you out of there. So he called and asked if you could come live with me.
So how did you feel after hearing about that?
I'm not sure when. So when I heard that was what my dad had said, I was like, no surprise, don't care. I'm out of here
Oh.
anyways. I don't remember taking it too. I wasn't upset about it.
You just sort of saw it coming.
No, there was one thing with Michael. He surprised me when he hit me. So it's not. I thought I knew what to expect with him, because that was his one thing, is he'll never hit his kids, because he's been hit so many times and threatened so many times, and I'll never hit him. And so when he did, that's the first time I remember being truly shocked from a result. Like in the moment, I was actually shocked. Usually I can guess what's about to happen in a situation, and it's not the first time he got up close to me, but his beard was on my face and his spit was in my face, and then he hit me, and I was like, didn't see that one coming. And so no, to answer your question, it didn't surprise me, but it did. It was like, okay, reassuring that's where he's at. He's just kind of done with me, and that's fine. I'm kind of done with him. But oddly enough, when I had to go back to Texas to pick up Bear and the rest of my stuff that I left there, I was at the Motel 6, and I was getting ready to leave, and so the whole family came by, and he was crying, and he hugged me. He was like, "I love you, son." And that was confusing. Very confusing, because by that time I knew what he had said. By that time I thought he didn't care, and I didn't care about him. But did that fake little, okay, yeah, see you around. But
The condition of you coming back
right
was that I told both of you and Michael, that I was not going to be a glorified babysitter, because he just wanted, you were 17 at the time. You'd just turned 17, a couple months, 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And he's like, just keep him till he's 18, and then you can kick him out.
Which I would have loved at that time. That's what I was looking for. I was like, sweet. Oh, yeah.
And I just said, I'm not going to be a glorified babysitter till he's 18 and come back and be responsible for him. And he's just running around doing whatever.
Yeah.
And so I told both of you that if you came back, it was going to be as a father and son relationship, because I was going to put some boundaries and things in place.
And I didn't know what that meant at the time. Literally, I was like, okay,
Boundaries,
weird.
what is that?
This is just going to be another weird thing I have to stomach through, I guess, with another person, but that's fine.
Yeah. So, and I was going to expect them to be upheld as well.
Yeah. And I apparently agreed to things that I did not know I agreed to.
Or
Like,
understand.
Yeah, but he was so high so often. He was smoking.
Probably
yeah,
forgot
I was
about it.
probably high when we were having the conversation.
Yeah.
There was many times we were having conversations and I was stoned out of my mind because of it. So, Okay, so when I came back to Texas,
Mm-hmm.
the first night I came back to Texas, I snuck in Chase and his girlfriend into my room, unbeknownst to my nana, who I was quote unquote
First
taking
night.
first night,
Crazy.
and we were smoking already.
This is your best friend.
This is
Say,
mine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and basically, Chase got me caught up with some guy, Dreon, and his sister Jalen. And apparently, I knew them both in passing. Like, they both went to the high school that we went to.
Richardson?
Yeah. There was some party that my sister, whenever I was in California, Allie came back. My sister, Chase, and my sister smoked, hung out a lot. Allie went to a party with Dreon or something, or another mutual friend. And that's how Chase and Dreon met. And then it was just all uphill from there, or down, whatever the good one is. Uphill good or downhill?
Uphill is good. Downhill is bad.
Uphill's harder though, right? Yeah, it's a harder thing to.
But downhill means you're just lowest of a low. That's
Yeah, but you can like run downhill really fast. Okay, so uphill's the good one.
for the most part.
Depends on what you're talking about and the aspect that you're looking at.
That's so stupid.
You were
It was
taking, like you said in the beginning, you
it
were
was
just taking the
all-
easy road.
It was all gravy from there with
Yeah.
them two. They were like best of buds, which is crazy because at the time Chase was my best friend. At that time, you were second class.
A little hurt, but
Chase was like Chase and I. Well, because it was seventh grade that we met, and we were both the new kid. We were both large new kids at school, and I remember. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other story. But we developed a friendship, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what a friend was. I hadn't defined what a friend was.
Uh-huh.
So the whole thing I'm getting to is with Chase and Dreon and everyone else I got mixed up with. I was smoking more and more pot, trying to be a deviant little boy, getting away with things, trying to lie about stuff that I'm in location A, but I'm in location B. And then I would get caught, like immediately, almost every time. At first, I didn't get caught, but I believe that's just because he was like, I'm not going to swat that fly. I know what he's doing, but I'm not going to. So, but eventually I was like, okay, well, all this lying is just BS and it's too much work and too much embarrassing stuff getting caught. So I just stopped altogether. Eventually I stopped altogether. The whole backhanded lying stuff. There are still parts of me that, like, I still try to do it. That part of me is still like maybe I can formulate this thing real quick and no one will know about it. But then I'm like,
old
okay.
habits, yeah.
Yeah, old habits die hard. So I just like us. When I realize I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, great. And I'm about to execute. I'm like, wait, this is exactly what gets me in trouble in the first place. Let me just not do that.
Well, that's good.
But one day after getting caught, Calvin, was it getting caught or was it the day my first time at work going home? I forget.
That what? That
Our
we had that
Map and
conversation?
Compass conversation. Was
I,
that
I caught you.
what was I doing?
You were lying, and you weren't where you said you were gonna be.
Oh.
And I came and picked you up.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting in the car, and he's basically like, look, you got to give me your word that you're not going to smoke marijuana where it's illegal. And I was like, okay, sure, yeah. And at that point, when I said yes, I meant it. I was like, I'm just done with all this. If this whole smoking pot thing is causing me this trouble, I guess I can wait and do it later. And then the conversation got a little deeper, because at that point, I was calling him Dad. I think I was calling you Dad at that point, or we were the whole trust was being built, the relationship was being established, and that transition was happening, and it was an awkward transition for me. And I wasn't. I thought I would just kind of like put up a front for a while and just long enough so I can get out when I'm 18 and see a sucker, but didn't happen. So our conversation got a little deeper, and you had essentially said that you could show me a better way to live. Which we now associate with the podcast as giving a map and compass. Map is meaning where you're going, and the compass is how. Is that? Yeah. Map is where you're going, and the compass is how you get there. Well, map is the destination. You have the map, so you can. Don't shake your head at me. What, am I wrong?
The compass is where you're going, what direction you're going in,
And the
and the map is how you get there.
Oh hell.
The The compass leads you to.
And so I think that was the one of the crucial conversations we had starting.
Mhm.
And I guess I should preface. Too late to preface. I guess I should say now, since we're 25 minutes into the 20 something minutes into the show. The point with this episode, we're still talking about with family, right? We're still on family,
Mhm.
obviously, because he's my family.
Right.
And we've been talking about that for a while, which we'll get past eventually. I'm still working out when we're going to talk about romance. I think this is the last family one, maybe. Don't quote me. But the kind of message and the significance that Calvin has had in my life and that Ahmed has had in my life is that they've shown me that there's great potential, and not only myself, but everybody. Everybody has this great amount of potential that you can use, you can harness, hone in on, utilize, whichever one of those will work. You can use that potential to develop beyond whatever you think is possible. And whenever I try to make these episodes, I'm like, okay, what would I tell myself? And if I were to talk to myself, me now, if I was talking to me then, I wouldn't even try, because I would know, looking at the past me, like, this kid he's not about it. He doesn't want to know. I'll just talk to a wall. And then the past me would be like, I don't give a hell. I was about to say the bad word. I don't care about this other man who's talking to me. He's just full of BS. I'm getting laid. I'm smoking pot. What is he doing? He's what? Waking up early? Or trying to wake up early. He's not drinking. He's not smoking. He's not doing anything worthwhile. Why would I listen to this poser, this square? That's what that was. Those are especially with teachers. When teachers try to talk to me, I'm like, dude, I'm getting more head than you. You're not even married. Like,
My God.
that's where I was at. I was like, you're talking to me, little man?
So you thought you were a big
I
shot.
thought I was a big shot, bro.
Yeah.
But so I say all that because Calvin got me out of that mindset, which is why he's here. And that there was part that I had to play in it. It wasn't just him. If it was just him and I was not for it, then
It wouldn't work.
it wouldn't work. One of the key parts he had in that conversation was he said, if you let me. And that's the whole thing, is if you let me. And so I had to be on board with it. And from there, that's when I started to question who I was hanging out with and what I was doing with my time. And that's when I looked at Ahmed. I was like, this guy's squared away. This guy's pretty squared away. And
Yeah.
I realized that there was never a dull moment with Ahmed here.
Mhm.
There was never a moment where I didn't feel a genuine, or what do you call it, a genuine sense of, I don't know.
Happiness?
Sure.
Yeah.
Little, yeah.
Excuse me?
And so, that's what it was. And everyone else that I was hanging out with, for the most part, except for like my wily friends, but everyone else that I was spending my time with, there were tons of times where I was super just annoyed being around them. I was putting up with them to get to the pot. So after I started cutting that down, my life significantly changed, which we talked briefly about in one of the previous episodes. I don't know which one, but one of them. Which brings me on to the next point. You started to then teach me how to be a better individual. Do you have any key things that you think would be most beneficial to a listener now who's trying to get better, who's trying to develop, that you could offer?
Like universal?
Well, universal or biblical, or something that you did with me, because I was at the point to where I was trusting you. We were building our trust. We were building our relationship, and I was understanding trusting an authority figure. I was trying to grasp that authority figure model, because authority figures, I was my own authority figure. No one had power over me. I was untouchable until I met you. And so is there anything just right now off the bat, off the top of your head, off the dome, or that you written down about some principles that you could show or elaborate on or just mention briefly, and how you applied that in my life?
Well, I think for where you're at in that age group, there's some natural things. That is the phase of life where you are gaining your independence. So you should be accountable and responsible for who you are and the things that you're doing, your behavior, and the the choices that you're making. So, from the beginning, you came back when you were 17 and you're not a child. I can't make you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I left it totally up to you. But what I had to do was, first off, was be transparent and to be a man of my word and to walk my talk and the principles. And we talked about honesty, and integrity was the first thing that we hit because you lied so much.
Ahmed, did you ever see it? Did you ever see a shift in me after, like from wrestling freshman, sophomore year?
I saw
from high
the
school.
biggest shift from when you actually moved in with him.
Oh yeah, what'd you see?
I saw you actually be responsible a little bit, not
Okay.
lie as much, stop some bad habits. Like
Okay.
when I was a kid, I'd always see you and you're like, yeah, man, I'm the coolest thing in the world. I don't
Yeah.
need anything. And then when Calvin's around, you're like, hello, sir, how are you? And I'm like, wow, you did some good work. Hello.
It took me taking the time to get to know you and who you are. And as family, as parents, as adults, as authority figures, I believe part of our responsibility is to help you become who you want to be and to be people and to be a person of character. And the best way to do that is to model that for you so you know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though, and at times you still think you know everything, you don't know what you don't know. So there's so much up there and you think you know everything, but you don't know what you don't know.
I'm pretty close though.
Mm.
I'm usually pretty spot
So-
on.
Looks like he's still learning.
Yeah. So talking about honesty and talking about having integrity, and of course, you pick some of the most challenging times to do that. And again, we were talking about honesty. We were talking about integrity. It was June 2018.
Oh yeah.
Father's Day rolled around.
Uh-huh.
So we spent the day together
Mm-hmm.
celebrating Father's Day. And we had just gone, he was still working at Studio Movie Grill. So we had gone to a movie, and it was about 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And he received a text from Michael's wife, his stepmom, asking if he's going to wish Michael a happy Father's Day. And then he looks at me and says, well, this is not how I feel, and this is not how I look at him. And, in his sarcastic way of communicating
Right.
that he does, says, well, okay, how am I on? How do I be honest here? How do I use integrity?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I said, well, if you think back, you don't have to use the words Happy Father's Day. I said, anytime in your life prior to all this stuff happening, do you think he ever sacrificed for you and did anything for you? At least one thing. And he's like, well, yeah. And I said, well, then just thank him for the times that he did sacrifice for you. And, if you want after that, to wish him a good day or what have you. And that was it. And that's all he would have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he first came back, my situation, I had roommates. And so there wasn't room for him to stay with me.
Right.
So we made arrangements for him to stay with his grandmother. And so I dropped him off after the movie at his grandmother's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 12-minute drive
Mm-hmm.
from her house to mine. And as soon as I walk in the door, I get a call from Michael talking about this text that he got from Tony, and then he copied me on it. And Tony added quite a bit more
Uh-huh.
to that. But I was actually very proud of Tony in that, because he was pretty precise in describing how he felt, where he was at, where he felt they were at, even with everything that happened, and said that he is still open to building a relationship with him. It just would not be a type of father-son relationship. And that's where he was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael flew off the handle with that and said that told Tony he was going to contact me for me to make Tony call him. And leading up to all this, when Michael would text Tony certain things, Tony would copy me on it. He would forward it to me. So I saw exactly the things that Michael was saying and doing, and things that you should never say to your child. And with Tony coming back and Michael giving me power of attorney over Tony, when I talked to Tony, I told him to have no communication with Michael. Don't respond to his texts or his calls. Don't answer his calls and different things. And when Tony didn't reply, and it had been a couple of days, Michael called me and asked me about it. And I said, well, he's actually doing what I asked him to do, and that is not to communicate with you. Because you sent him back here, placed him in my care, and right now, for what I know you want to do and what you want to say to him, it's not in Tony's best interest. And so that was the beginning of the breaking point in our friendship. But Tony was in my care, and I was committed to caring for him. And again, I had plenty of evidence on what those communications he had with Tony were like. And when I said I wanted to build a father and son relationship, in my mind, that's what I was committed to. And I was not going to have anybody talk to my son that way.
I could just have him talk for the rest of the show. It's easy on me, man. Yeah,
So,
and that was a fun time. That was a good. There was a lot of understanding that I had to do. Was not expecting. Whenever I came back to Texas, I thought I'd be back in California in like a year with my stepbrother, chilling out, smoking pot, living the good life. But did not expect myself to be here by any means. I wanted to hit, since we're down to the last, at least from what I recorded, which it could be wrong, last 20 minutes. And we could, and knowing you and we could talk far past that. So that means we have to have you on again multiple times.
Oh.
But I have these changes that I wrote down or typed out. And the premise of the show, if you were like me whenever I was young, and you're like me now, then you're probably not listening to this podcast when I was younger. I'm not old. I'm a little old. But if you're like me whenever I was younger, this is all BS. I'm stupid. I'm a square. Everyone here is a square. Life is pointless. Do what you want. Have sex. Do drugs. Go crazy. And you can do that. You have the right to do so and the willingness to do so. But you're probably not watching this podcast. So if you are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, you're a special kind of someone. And that means that you are either aware of the potential that you have that's going to develop you into the man or woman that you want to be. Now, there is always going to be a hard day. There's always going to be a hard time. But plenty of. But again, the whole point is that I'm talking and putting this information out there for people who want to get better, or at least are aware that you can get better, or what have you. So if you are either in the stages of transitioning from a crappy life to a better life, there are a few things you need to do. There are a few things you need to learn. Make sure you have in your noggin, because I did not have these things. I did not have what I'm about to say. I wasn't aware of the importance of this stuff. So I'm just going to go down the list and probably explain a little bit about it, talk a little more on that. So number one, which we had already talked about it, which is a map and compass, knowing where you want to go and how you want to get there. Luckily, for me, the initial step was to get my act together, which means stop screwing around with guys who don't know what they want to do with their lives. Guys who just want to chase the next high. Guys who just want to, what's the word?
Waste your life.
Well, that's a term. Yeah, sure, that'll work. So yeah, that being aware of who you're hanging out with, which we've talked about before on the show.
Right.
Being aware of who you spend your time with and who you're considering a friend. And then romance. Romance for young people is a hurdle, and it's a tough one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so Calvin helped me with that. When I came back to whenever I left Texas, I was in a relationship. We tried long distance. It didn't work out. We were calling, and then I kind of just blocked it all out because there's a lot of grief there. I don't know what it was, but I was a cold stone killer. Don't forget it. I was heartless. I was ruthless. I didn't have emotions until I met somebody, and they were the complete opposite. I don't know what it was, but that's when I started to be more sensitive, at least towards her, and that's where it kind of all began, kind of the breakdown of that outer shell, and that's when more of my current friends were more annoying, and I was just like, okay, I'll just be their friends because that's what friends do. But you need to be aware of what you're doing romantically.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin and I have talked about this for hours about romance and how, I forget what you say, but basically the juice right now, the juice is not worth the squeeze, kids. If you're chasing a tail right now, or you're hung up on some chick, that's the problem. You're hung up on some chick or some guy. Who cares? I don't. So the whole point is that's a lot of time, a lot of investment. And sometimes relationships work out well in high school. And sometimes high school lovers get married, but then they get divorced. You usually don't get to see 20 years in the future. It's the worst decision of their life, and if they could do it differently, they would. So the point that I'm saying right now is, if you're trying to make a transition, you need to cut that crap out. Don't go fantasizing about the cute girl at the coffee shop or the cute guy at the gym or whatever. It's going to save you a lot of trouble and time and energy.
And money.
And maybe money. Are you like prostitutes? Or?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's what Calvin taught me. He helped me let go of the relationship that I was hell-bent on reviving. And that whole thing caused me a whole lot of grief, but he helped me through it.
And I'll add this in there. What I had him focus on was himself.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't have a healthy relationship.
Date yourself, girl.
He couldn't have a healthy relationship with anybody because he wasn't in a healthy place.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I was like, you need to work on you before you mess up somebody else's life.
Work on you, boo. Yeah, I remember that.
So
that is very relevant. Yeah.
And he tried a couple of times. He grew a little bit and thought, okay, now I got it down. And then he tried again. I'm like,
with Jennifer, and that was fun times.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Anyway, the next one is significance of discipline and consistency, which I am extremely bad at. Extremely terrible.
At both of them? Or?
Both of them. Oh, yeah. The only thing I do consistently is fail. So, but yeah, that is, and I mean, I feel terrible. Like, oh yeah, be disciplined, be consistent. I'm not gonna, ha. I'm trying, folks. I really am.
Said than done.
He knows I'm trying.
Yeah,
I consistently fail, which means I consistently have to redo the F up. It's so
He gets
hard not to
better.
cuss.
Every time he falls and he gets up, he does better.
And there's some consistency to that too.
Well, it's
Exactly.
he's consistently
Effing up.
growing.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Trusting authority, folks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Not all authority figures are good.
Yeah.
That's where the bad people are. A lot of the movies, evil people are authority figures. And you're right. They are. But you have to find somebody. Be it the counselor, the teacher, mom, maybe dad, maybe, who knows, uncle, older
figure.
authority figure. Yeah. But for me, trusting authority, I did not have trust for authority because the the authority broke me.
I mean,
And
you had some bad examples.
I did, which is why I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
But exceptions exist. Not everybody's bad, but there
Right.
are some bad people in authority who shouldn't be in authority. And you just kind of have, as part of life, you're going to have to deal with it. But that doesn't mean every single person in authority is stupid, worthless, idiotic.
Mm-hmm.
I can just keep going on. And that's exactly what I thought Calvin was. I thought he was just some old guy and
Another Joe.
just another Joe Schmo.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wrong. Thank God. He taught me another important bit, which is apologizing. So often I would say sorry. He would catch me and I'm like, sorry. Slap on the wrist. Sorry. But he taught me this importance of saying, asking for forgiveness instead of saying sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you run with that, actually. I mean, or I can, but that's your thing. So you do it so
Well, it's
well.
not. Well,
Go for
and
it.
You just said it basically, and that is a principle. If you want to go back to one of the biblical principles that I gained, was there's a difference between saying you're sorry and asking for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell someone you're sorry and you're just tossing it
Mm-hmm.
at them, and you can just say it and walk away, and they just deal with whatever it is that you did. But asking someone for forgiveness, you hand it to them and you give them the power then to say, yes, I forgive you. And then that enables the relationship to be repaired in that sense. But just tossing out you're sorry doesn't really mean that you don't have to mean it. But if you ask for forgiveness,
Yeah, I never meant it.
yeah. You ask for forgiveness, you've got to wait and allow them
Mm-hmm.
to say, yes, I forgive you, and grant you that.
Yeah. So that is definitely the number one thing that has stuck with me, like out of everything else. Anytime I know I've messed up, I usually start off with, "Can you forgive me?" It's part of taking ownership as well, because when you say that, you're realizing that you goofed up, and it's not
Mhm.
someone else's fault. Usually, when you say, "Oh, sorry," you can just
You don't
Toss.
really care whether they forgive you or not.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about this, but the struggles of lying. Lying sucks
Mm-hmm.
unless there's exceptions exist.
Right.
Sometimes lying is a good thing, but more often than not, you don't have to lie. It doesn't mean gun to your head. It's like someone's asking a question, and if you don't lie, then you're probably going to get shot. You should probably lie. Or like if your wife does something.
What
wears
examples
something,
you come up with?
I'm trying.
A little extreme.
Then which we'll have to. We only got, which we'll have to talk about this next one.
Mhm.
That'll be like a whole podcast. That'll be a whole episode. But Cody, he showed me what I was becoming, where I was going. He had. Well, you can talk. Do you want?
Well, to introduce Cody,
a whack at it, or
Who's
this gentleman,
just
Cody,
buckle up. Big
having
boy.
been a CASA,
Mhm.
I started a nonprofit called the River Jordan Legacy in 2015.
I forgot to even mention the nonprofit. Jesus.
That works with foster care alumni, those who've aged out of the system, because they usually don't have any type of support system
Mhm.
and family, a healthy family, to depend on. And there was one young man that I gave, and all my friends and everybody who knew me know I gave everything I had to help this young man succeed. When I met him, he had a month-old daughter and was about to lose his housing that he had gotten through the state and different things. And to say, at that point, I moved from where I was at and moved in with him so that he didn't lose his housing.
Mhm.
And that my plan, it was 6 months, get him back on his feet, get him going. He appeared to have some goals and some dreams and everything else. But that was sorely not the case. And he basically continued to blame the system and everything. And even though he didn't consider himself a victim, everything else was everybody else's fault, which makes him the victim. and he just would not change his mindset. And in the many people that I've mentored and helped get established and helped change their lives over the years, he was the first person that I had to walk away from.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, because he was pulling me down. And again, understanding who you surround yourself with and who you spend time with affects your life. And he was just stealing my time, energy, finances, everything. And I had to break and talk to him the entire time up to that. And to that last day when I walked away from his apartment, and I said, I wish the best for you. It was the first time that one of the hardest things I've ever had to do after investing in someone so much and believing and hoping. But we can't do that for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony had moved back and got a chance to meet Cody. And anytime I went and spent time with Cody, I brought Tony with me.
Yeah, not a fan.
And I'm
Not
like,
a fan.
this is where you're headed.
He was a shit. He was not a good.
So
not a good.
he
player.
had his challenges. So he just wouldn't take the opportunity to change.
Right. Lastly, the most important thing, which I'm still trying to figure out. Being careful of what I feed my head, as in what I listen to, what I watch, what I read, is that it? Those are the only things I can
Take in.
Yeah, basically what I take in, what I surround myself in. Because as I had mentioned before, the little part of me that still I'm trying to snuff out, the one that wants to run away, the one that wants to just escape and start over and
Go
hide
back to
and
the old lifestyle.
go back to the easy game.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on that was a certain time in my life, and I was listening. We'll just take music for example. I was listening to a particular group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a handful of particular groups of people. And hell, good music, still good music to this day. I'll listen to it every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I need to, because I know the words verbatim, if I need to like zone out and like clean up, like whenever our puppies would just go ham and they just poop and piss everywhere. And I get home after 9 hours of work and get home and you're gone, won't be home for however long. And I come home to piles
9 hours of work. When does that happen?
Saturday, baby. And get home and just poop everywhere. I'm like, oh, I gotta blast that music, and it gets me out of the zone. It gets me in the zone, out of the whatever.
And what song are you talking about?
Oh, just it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's
the whole
okay.
The whole point, the whole point is that you have to be careful what you're feeding yourself. Just like as far as your physical body, it's your mental health as well. It's the whole victim mentality, just like he had said. It's everything. People who are singing about they're worthless. Life sucks. People are terrible. Life is worthless.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're gonna believe eventually. Now, we'll get into that later. Kind of whole how you're living and stuff. But that's the idea. Is with Calvin, since when he was my chauffeur for a while when I came back to Texas, my glorified taxi driver. And I would listen to music. He's like, okay, got to stop this. Can't listen to this. Not going to listen to it. Oh, okay, that's fine. So I had to find some other stuff to listen to, which is good. I had a wide range of music anyways. But whenever I'd pick the songs like My Chemical Romance, Pierce the Veil, Falling in Reverse, I can go on. He's like, screw this stuff. It's not good for you. I was like, come on. It's all right. But that's the point. That's the message. Is you got to be careful with what you're feeding yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, a donut every once in a while isn't bad. But you really should be having a donut. It's not good for you anyways.
Shouldn't have it like multiple times a day.
No, you should not. Okay. We're down to the last 6 or so minutes. I'm going to let you answer the last 2 bits of this page, the message and the song, and then we'll see where we're at from there. Okay. So please, take it away, Penny.
Well, as far as the song, there's an artist, and he's a Christian artist, by the name of Tyler.
Micah Tyler.
And he's got a song called Different that you should check out.
Have I not?
No.
I should.
Well, being in the car with me, you might have.
Yeah, I'm sure I have.
Yeah.
What about? Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
What's the song about?
It's
We don't have
about
time for those questions.
it's about being different. It's about change and growing and wanting to be more. And instead of going down a path, I'm just going to worry about me. I'm going to take the easy road and smoke my pot, have my girlfriend, and just coast through life. It's becoming a person of character, and that your life having meaning and being a part of society, a positive member of society, and doing something for society and for those around you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just being different than what a lot of people are doing out there, and
Take notes on Med.
and everything. So, and the message is I would say is a quote from Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker that I really like. And he's got a quote that, and this is exactly what Tony's.
I'm gonna pretend like you didn't do that.
But this is what Tony is in the process, has done and made the decision to do and is doing. And that's to be successful. He's doing the things today that others won't do in order to have tomorrow what others won't have.
Mic drop.
And so he's not waiting. There's this, usually this age, the 16 to 22, the college age, go party, just do this, and just drift. And they drift into their late 20s and 30s before they get a handle on life, and then realize the things that they start thinking about what they want and where they're at, and they have spent so much time wasting time and digging themselves in a hole. They've got a harder job of getting to where they want to be. And he's starting now at 18, 19, 20, so that by his mid-20s and his late 20s, he's going to be somewhere where someone in their late 30s or 40s is mentally and what's going on in his life.
Hopefully. The goal. I could just...
No, that's not going to happen. So, not going to let that happen.
Sure, yeah. Good point. Ahmed, were you ever a rabble-rouser? Is that the right rabble-rouser?
What on earth is that? Was I a
A
rebel?
delinquent.
I had delinquent moments. Like I argue with my
Oh,
parents.
like what, you stayed up
sometime.
past your bedtime?
Maybe. All right. I'm not exactly like cool guy messing with the teachers. Like, man, I don't need to talk to you. You and me are two different people. All right.
Yeah, we'll get into you. We'll open up your book
yeah.
here soon.
Yep.
Folks, you stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice. Tear you apart. Okay, we're gonna end the show here. I have a little thing, just a little spiel. Well, not really a spiel. Maybe a spiel.
Mantra?
No, it's coming though.
Oh,
Glad you
okay.
remembered. Glad someone did. I almost wasn't going to.
Gotta
So
keep you in check, I guess.
gotta keep me in check, Roger. So, mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That is where I started. Well, no, I started with myself. I realized that I didn't want to just hate everything, because that was just a lot. It was exhausting.
Uh-huh.
And I realized how exhausting it was in California when I listened to Alan Watts. Check him out. He's pretty heady, but that's where I started. So if you hate everyone, listen to him, maybe. Or Jordan Peterson, or Jocko, or someone. But you have to start where it counts in your heart. Gotta follow your heart, wherever that movie's from. But you have to. You have to be able to not look at everyone and just say, you should die. There's no, because that's what I was at. I was like looking at people and things and just thought it was a waste of time. And so after you get past that, which you most likely are if you're listening to this, good on you. Go find peers. Go find an authority figure. Go find which we call mentors. You are the pupil, And the mentor could be anyone who's been where you've been. I don't necessarily want to limit it to age, but typically the older people have been through more. But you can find someone who's younger than you, possibly. Maybe. I'm not
You
sure.
learn from everyone.
You can learn. Yeah, you can learn from everyone. That's the thing. And with peers, with your friends, something I'm doing right now, which I'll bring. We're working on it. It's in the works. Accountability buddies. I'll tell you a bit about it. Ain't it cute? Accountability buddies. But it's peer. It's peer help. It's peer mentorship.
Mhm.
And with Voyagers Path, that's the kind of the community we're trying to build as well. Setting the stones, and hopefully here within the next few months we'll be growing larger and following and larger in our social media presence
Mhm.
and things like that. So once you figure out what makes you so angry, go talk to someone who's been there, because everyone has. Go find someone. Go find a friend, mom, dad, if you can. But that's the end of that spiel.
Make sure it's someone positive too.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to actually change and stop being angry or hateful and stuff like that, if you go to someone who just will agree with you, that's not going to lead you anywhere. That's not going to change anything.
Correct. Well, I'm going to do the end thing. So, do you guys have anything you want to say?
I mean, thanks for Calvin for coming by
For
and
sure.
speaking with us.
Yeah, took you a couple of episodes to get me on here.
You didn't
So,
want to come on in the first place.
I don't like being in front of the camera.
So why are you giving me
So.
shit? Okay. Thank you, Dad. I didn't get to say this, Mom, if you're watching this. I love you too, but I love you, Dad.
Me too.
I don't think I was watching that episode and we ended it and I was like, oh, I didn't say I love you. Awkward. Love you too, Marco. Okay. So here we go. To future and health, good fortune and wealth. To discipline and sacrifice, to lessons that last for life. To live by honor and for glory, death will come, so be extraordinary. Thank you, folks, for watching. That'll be... we'll just end there. Toodles.